The whole world looks on in absolute horror and disgust at this blood-hungry madman, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Tel Aviv terrorist, as he continues his relentless slaughter of innocent Palestinian men, women, and children. How can this be happening in the 21st century? That's what I'm asking myself and asking all of you. This is nothing less than a slaughter, a massacre, and mass murder. This is not, as the U.S. corporate media try to frame it, a conflict between two supposedly even sides. No. This is genocide. Hi there, my name is Tom Wright. I'm the founder and publisher of Strong Liberals. It's crucial that you subscribe and hit the notification button. It has come out that in the last 6 months, corporate organizations and powerful government entities have been asking YouTube to quietly change their algorithms to suppress liberal and progressive voices. This is something you're seeing across the spectrum at YouTube on people's channels. If you're progressive, if you're liberal, your views are going way down. That's not an accident. So please subscribe to this channel, support it, hit the notifications button, and share it with your friends. Now here's the thing. Humanity promised itself after the Nazis that it would never let something like that happen again. But guess what? It is happening again right now in Palestine at the hands of the outlaw Israeli regime. Remember this, you guys. This is never talked about in the corporate press either. Israel has the 4th largest military on the face of the earth, funded, sponsored, and protected by the U.S. government. We ship $4 billion worth of bombs, missiles, tanks, and God knows what to the Israeli regime to fund genocide against Palestinians. The Palestinians, on the other hand, have no army, no air force, no navy, and no Marines. Nothing with which to defend themselves from this vicious and brutal Israeli regime. The Palestinian people have faced a vicious and violent campaign of Israeli terrorism, torture, apartheid, ethnic cleansing, and illegal military occupation for over 70 years. My God, how do you survive that? How do you live through that? How do you withstand that? I don't know. The Palestinian people are the bravest and the strongest people on the face of the earth. They have to be to survive this madness, to survive genocide and ethnic cleansing and military occupation by the 4th largest military on the planet. Fortunately, massive protests around the world have erupted at these Israeli atrocities in support of the Palestinians. There is a sea of Palestinian flags floating from one part of earth all around to the other. Here in America, Los Angeles, California, San Francisco, Chicago, Illinois, New York City, and dozens of cities in between have come out to support the Palestinian people and their plight. From Cape Town to Karachi, from London to Vienna, the whole world is speaking out to support the Palestinians and to tell the Israeli death machine, stop. Stop what you're doing, the atrocities, the blood, the genocide. Stop now. Mandla Mandela, the granddaughter of Nelson Mandela, has been one of the most vocal in support of the Palestinian people. She is also an African National Congress parliamentarian, and she is disgusted at Israeli actions and has said and declared that the Tel Aviv, the Israeli regime, the Israeli embassy in South Africa should be shut down or moved, and that the embassy in Jerusalem that the South Africans have should also be shut down and closed in protest of these atrocities. NBA players are speaking out for the first time ever Damon Lilliard and Kyle Irving are two prominent examples of people standing up for what is just and what is right and what the Palestinian people have been asking for 70 years, which is nothing more than their freedom and a home. Hollywood actor Mark Ruffalo has been prominent in his criticism of the outlaw Israeli regime and in his praise of the Palestinian people. Every voice counts. Everyone who speaks up matters. It's so important. Congress members, for the first time in, I think, American history, I've never seen this before, have stood up, many of them, in the halls of Congress, particularly in the House of Representatives, and have spoken out against the outlaw Israeli regime and spoken up for the Palestinian people. I'm talking about Rashida Tlaib, AOC, Ayanna Pressley. I'm talking about Ilhan Omar, Andre Carson, and many others who have the courage and the bravery and the principle to speak out about what they're seeing. These people spoke up for the Palestinians and spoke out against the Israelis and the Biden administration. They told Biden, you aren't prioritizing human rights, you are siding with illegal occupation. 25 different House members signed a letter that went to Biden's desk and said, enough is enough. Stick up for the Palestinian people. Stop sponsoring Israeli terror. And in one of the most disgraceful and cowardly acts in recent presidential history, Joe Biden repeatedly blocked the United Nations Security Council from speaking out on this issue. As bombs were being dropped by Netanyahu on Palestinian children in apartment buildings, in markets, in hospitals, in medical clinics, Joe Biden refused to openly condemn the bombing of Palestinian children. As disturbing and as disgusting as that is, it is absolutely the truth. Joe Biden was evidently too busy wiping human blood off Benjamin Netanyahu's hands to respond to worldwide requests for a condemnation of this Israeli aggression and these atrocities. He called Netanyahu his great friend. Well, Joe Biden, you guys are more than great friends. You're now blood brothers. Boycotts, divestment, sanctions. That is the only language the Israelis listen to. That and force. United Nations peacekeeping troops must be brought into Palestine to put in place peace, to force out the Israeli occupiers and land grabbers once and forever. Because the outlaw Israeli regime of terror and torture does not care about and will not listen to law or morality or decency. They don't care about any of those things. They've shown that they only care about stealing Palestinian land. The only language you're going to understand is boycott, divestment, sanctions, and force. UN peacekeeping troops to force them off the land that they're stealing every single day. Now, the Israeli regime lost its humanity 70 years ago when they began this filthy and disgusting and bloody and illegal occupation. The Palestinian people are still trying to claim their humanity. For years, American government refused to even acknowledge them, refused to consider them people, human beings, whose desires for freedom and a home are the same desires that everyone around the world has for themselves and their families. It's all the Palestinians have ever wanted and ever asked for. This has to end. I am sick and tired of doing these videos where I have to express my disgust at Israeli atrocities and genocide and ethnic cleansing. The whole world is sick and tired of this, and I know for a fact that the American people, American taxpayers, are sick and tired of seeing their tax dollars by the billions going to fund the oppression of Palestinians, the apartheid regime in Tel Aviv. They're sick of it. It has to stop. This can't continue. Lastly, I just want to say this. God bless the Palestinian people.